Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Cambridge and with Sean is a Weirding Way Media podcast.
Remarkable!
And welcome to, I almost said Wake Up Heavy. Hello and welcome to Cambridge and with Sean, a podcast by two weird guys about the weird things that they like. I am Mark Bigley, who also hosts Wake Up Heavy Recollections of Horror. And with me, as always, is
Ronnie Zerigian, otherwise known as Skelevator on YouTube. Excited to be here. We got a lot of fun things to talk about.
You got anything from last time to fix or add to before we start?
No.
As I do.
The last episode was epic, man. I'm sure there are little things, but when I was listening to it again, I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, I caught most of it and did my fixes in the episode. I realized I left out a couple things.
Oh, yeah?
One of them being a correction from earlier in the show, and I don't remember which episode we talked about sandwich shops, but I, for some reason, said that the packing shed had been on Peach and Tulare, which I know is not right, because that's where Easterby is. It's on Peach and Kings Canyon. Kings Canyon again, that long strip of...
Kings Canyon's going to show up quite a bit in our conversations, I think.
So I goofed on that, and then I mentioned the Freakies in the Burbs.
Yeah.
And I knew this, but they had brought it back in the mid to late 80s.
Ah, that's why.
Kind of changed most of their names and made them aliens, as opposed to, I guess, just little monsters or whatever they were supposed to be. And so that's most likely why it was in the Burbs. It wasn't like they found a 13-year-old box of it or something. It had been reissued pretty recently. Oh, that... I don't know why I'm correcting this, but the Bob's Big Boy Popsy thing that I got from Funko, you can't record a message on it. It just has, it's got a little button on it, and it pops up this bubble, thought bubble or cartoon bubble over his head that has a phrase like, "You're awesome," or something like that.
That's cool.
I reread the description. I'm like, how did I get that from that?
Either way, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. The Cause contest actually ended on December 1st, not December 2nd, like I said a couple of times in the show. I think I got my notification on the 2nd. So, one addition to the discussion on Hostess.
Yes.
This hadn't really come to mind. I just remember finding that image that I sent you that has all of the icons. And I mentioned zingers on the episode because we still get those pretty regularly, especially the raspberry coconut ones. Yeah. And I always loved those as a kid. And I'm like, wait a minute, did they have an icon for zingers? I don't remember seeing that in any of the old vintage stuff that I looked at. And so I looked up vintage zinger packaging and went, oh yeah, they weren't even Hostess back then. They were Dolly Madison, and the Peanuts characters were their icons.
Oh, shoot, that's crazy. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'd forgotten about that.
I don't know when that change happened. I don't know when they got snatched up by Hostess or what. I mean, we ate them when I was a kid and only remember them as being Hostess snack cake.
Right.
It must have happened maybe early in the 70s or something. But I also do remember seeing Peanuts iconography along with them. So
that's cool.
I found that interesting that they were missing from all the Hostess stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder, would you want your characters to be associated with sugary snack cakes? Maybe Charles Schultz. Do you think he was happy with that?
Granted them the license, so
that's true.
Couldn't have been too bothered by it.
Got the check.
Paid off his mortgage.
I did think of 2 addendums just now as you were talking. There is a new Cereal Monster character just announced.
I saw that.
And she is like a zombie or something. That's a new female character. It's cool that they're adding a female character. I have mixed feelings about it because she could be a zombie. She could be a Frankenstein monster. It's hard to tell what exactly she is. She feels like an outlier. I'm surprised they didn't go with like Bride of Frankenstein or something like that. She feels like slightly anomalous.
Yeah, I saw the posts on that and I was like, oh, they're hitting the Monster High crowd with this.
Oh, yeah.
He looks very Monster High.
Yes, thank you. You're absolutely right. Maybe that's what this is about. Yeah, they want to tap into that market. I can see that now. That makes a lot of sense.
Which is fine. And they're bringing back the Monster Mash cereal, which just bears no appeal to me whatsoever. All the cereals mixed together just sounds disgusting.
No, the box art might be awesome, though.
Well, and they've gone back to that very angular, pointy, modern aesthetic for all of them, including the new character, and I don't care for it. I mean, I'll still buy Count Chocula when it hits the shelves. Oh, and another thing I found funny is how often we say that we're not heavy Funko collectors, and we sure mentioned them a hell of a lot last episode.
I know. We always want to say they're just like filler. They serve as filler, but I picked up a Funko the other day. It was Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows, who's like... He's my favorite character because he's an energy vampire.
Yeah, that guy's great.
We all know energy vampires.
Yes.
I feel like I'm an energy vampire sometimes. So I really, I love Colin Robinson. I couldn't resist. And so sometimes that's the only place where you can find a character that you enjoy. So
yeah.
Got to commend Funko Pops for that.
Yeah, they really attack every license possible.
Yeah. It makes sense.
And of course, they're dumping $30 million worth of stuff in a landfill so they can write it all off.
They really should build like a Funko Pop island out of melted Funko Pops or something and put them to use. Build a building or something.
Then you don't get a tax break, Ronnie.
Dang it. All right, my other addendum is it's Grimace's birthday coming up.
Tomorrow, as of this recording.
Oh my gosh, that's right, tomorrow. It's really weird. This is going to come up later on in today's episode a little bit. It's that same thing where you throw something out into the ether, you start obsessing on it, and you don't really know why. And then suddenly it pops up in our collective consciousness, like it becomes a thing again.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah, the zeitgeist. And I feel like after our episode where we talked about the McDonald Land characters, we've had Hamburglar return, and now Grimace is returning, and I kind of love that. I get sucked into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and stuff sometimes. I don't adhere to them, but they're super fascinating to me. And that one theory that we are in a created world as opposed to
simulation.
Yeah, simulation as opposed to everything being natural. When we have those instances, that's when I'm like, man, I do feel like they are not just listening to the phones, but they're also just listening to our thoughts, which is crazy to me. It's exciting. And I looked into the t-shirts. They're not going to be available to us, only to people who work at McDonald's. They're really cool Happy Birthday Grimace t-shirts. I might have to just find one on eBay and get it that way.
You could try and butter up an employee at the one by Fashion Fair. I mean, the one by, well, it is by Fashion Fair, but the one by Frozen State. Go in there and slip somebody $20.
Yeah, I might wander in there and do that. I'll have to see if I can find the best deal, and I'll pick you one up too.
Hey, Johnny, give me one of them shirts. I got a crisp $20 here for you. And you're like the 10th guy that's asked me that today.
Know. It's so funny too, because with things like that, I am pretty like shameless. I will walk into the place and be like, hey,
there's no harm in asking.
No harm in asking, and better to get information than imagine that the information is unavailable to you.
Yes, don't berate a McDonald's employee who's not making enough money to deal with your shit, but, it doesn't hurt to ask. Hey, you guys selling those Grimace shirts?
I really try to not be an asshole. I try to go in there and be as friendly as possible, maybe buy a thing just to show, like if I go into Target looking for toys.
You could buy the Grimace meal that they're going to be releasing.
Oh, heck yeah.
Wild blackberry shake or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Purple shake.
Purple milkshake. I'm definitely going to try that. Got to try it. Get some nuggets, get a shake. I know you're going to get the Big Mac.
Yeah, I probably won't be going. Unless there's something that goes with it.
Yeah.
Have you seen a Hamburglar commercial, though, since he's been back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only seen not print ads, but a picture of a billboard and just stuff online, just marketing on social media.
They were showing up on Hulu.
Oh, huh.
The Hamburglar commercials. They haven't been popping up lately. That phase is past. The billboard's still up on Highway 99 when I'm driving into work. And I did catch some of those commercials. There were like 3 different ones, I think.
I'll have to look them up on YouTube then, because I haven't seen any.
And I think the actor who was the headmaster at the Rushmore School in Rushmore, he's also in Succession and...
Yeah, Brian Cox.
Brian Cox, yeah, thank you. I don't know, I was blanking out. I think he's narrating those.
He narrates most McDonald's commercials.
Oh, he does?
He's been doing it for years.
No wonder. Well, I was like, that's great that they got him to narrate this. I thought it was just for the Hamburglar.
No, he's been doing it for years.
Good for Brian Cox.
Yeah, it's right. An odd... the first time I heard that, I'm like... like I said, this was years ago. I'm like, is that Brian Cox? What the fuck?
That's a weird choice.
Hey, like when Michael Caine says, he's never seen Jaws 4, but he's seen the house that it bought and it's beautiful.
There you go. So. And Brian Cox is a smart choice. If you want somebody's voice to really like bring you in, he's got a great one.
He does have a great voice. It's just odd though that this I believe he's Scottish.
Yeah.
Actor is doing
Shakespearean actor basically.
Yeah, and he's doing his American accent for these McDonald's. It's odd.
It's strange. Odd. I feel like someone has a sense of humor on the McDonald's team.
Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Alrighty, let's dive into this, dude.
All right, let's get into it.
What's your first obsession for Cambridge Gym with Sean, episode 7?
All right, so this first one, both of the obsessions that I picked today stem from the same place, but the first one, I get to share a lot of embarrassing facts about myself. So buckle up. Buckle in, buckle up.
Either one.
Either one. All right. So the first choice is Charlie Chaplin. When I was little, my aunt's best friend and roommate used to record, oh gosh, what was it called? Nick at Night. Nick at Night. We didn't have cable, but she did. And she would record the Nick at Night old-timey comedy film stars. They would show Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Marx Brothers, silent greats like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and Fatty Arbuckle and all kinds of crazy stuff they would show. I believe it was Nick at Night before they started doing like music and stuff that I'd watch later on in high school. But she would record those things. I think they did music. They had like a...
Nickelodeon?
Oh, maybe it's Nickelodeon.
Well, that's what Nick at Night is Nickelodeon's.
They had a late night in high school. They had like a late night alternative music video hour. I don't remember what it was called, but that's how I first was introduced to the Pixies and Nirvana and Sonic Youth and Suicidal Tendencies and all kinds of great bands. Anyways, previous to that, they used to show like late night silent and old-timey stuff. I got really into old-timey comedy radio. So this is sort of the same intro for my next one, but I'll jump into Charlie Chaplin now. Speaking of the zeitgeist, speaking of like an odd cultural phenomenon that occurred in the early 90s, I had sort of paused. I got into horror films and sci-fi films and stuff, so I stopped my old-timey comedy movie obsession and went into that stuff. And then it started to come back around 91. Maybe I saw a poster or something like that, but when the Chaplin movie came out in 92, it was almost like they were reading my mind. They, again. Here we get into the embarrassing stuff. I started to collect silent film shorts on VHS. They were starting to come out. They were starting to hit stores. I would pick up one when I could. By then, I had my first job, which was at McDonald's, and painting holiday windows so I could set aside money and go and get these things. And I started collecting them. And then I feel like the announcement came for the Chaplin movie with Robert Downey Jr. I went off the rails a little bit. My freshman year of high school, it was all about Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. Every chance I'd get to go to an antique store and get old-timey looking things, I would. I had like a little old-timey briefcase, and I found a derby and a crushed top hat. And
crushed top hat.
Yeah, it was really cool. I probably got mercury poisoning, which just explains a lot of the slowing of my
speech.
My speech.
Spit it out, son.
There you go. Okay, so this is the embarrassing part. I would wear this stuff my freshman year of high school. I'd wear suspenders. I would wear the hat, and I had found we brought up Valley Novelty before. I found a bamboo cane at Valley Novelty. And then the movie came out, and it just fueled the fire. I was like deep into it. Soon after that, in 1993, this movie Benny and June came out with Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Johnny Depp was embodying Buster Keaton and a little bit of Chaplin too. I think there's even like
he does the roll thing.
The dancing of the bread rolls. It's not a bad movie, actually.
I like Benny and June.
Not a huge Johnny Depp fan, but there are some movies where it's like awesome, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Benny and June.
Ed Wood.
Oh my God. We got to talk about Ed Wood future episode. Thank you for the reminder. I'm writing it down. Mm-hmm. Writing it down right now. I also have Young Frankenstein on my list.
Ooh.
For me, that movie, it embodied everything that I was going through at the time as a freshman in high school and early sophomore year of my high school experience. I was deeply obsessed for a span of about 2 years with Charlie Chaplin. My favorite movies of his were the shorts and The Kid. To this day, when I watch The Kid, I get choked up, man. That's such a masterpiece. I love that stuff. I still, to this day, get a craving for it. I hear the music he would compose for his later films, and it's just so good. He was a master of his craft. I don't mean to throw in Buster Keaton here too, but Buster Keaton deserves his own episode for me. I discovered Buster Keaton through Charlie Chaplin. Mm-hmm. So I'm appreciative of that because Buster Keaton is a whole other beast.
Yeah.
So cool. The early 90s for me were about discovering great bands and dressing up like a 1918 to 1925 silent film star. I didn't do the Adolf Hitler mustache or anything. I did wear the hat. I did wear the baggy clothes and took my cane to school. Oh my gosh. I keep thinking about it now. I'm like, what was I doing?
I see these inspirational posts all the time on Instagram and Twitter, and like, no one remembers the stupid thing you did in high school, but I guarantee you everybody in your class remembers you dressing up like that to this day. Remember that kid that used to dress up like Charlie Chaplin? Yeah, what the fuck was his deal?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what happened to him.
I got called names. I went to high school in the mountains. And already, if you go to high school in the middle of nowhere, there's already factions of strong belief systems in place. I don't want to get into details. For me to be dressing like that in a fairly small school with a high population of conservatives, I did get called a lot of names. I did it to myself. I'm glad I did because it proved to me what I should and should not do, but that ultimately we got to do what we got to do to make ourselves feel good.
Yes.
Above all, no matter how embarrassing it was, and thinking back on it, I've been slowly going through pictures from my mom's photo albums. Maybe there's pictures of this.
Oh, I hope so.
I haven't run across any pictures. I'll have to, next time I go visit her, I'll have to look at the later photo albums, high school years. But man, to this day, I have a deep affection for Charlie Chaplin, a deep affection for old-timey comedians.
I saw Chaplin in the theater, actually, and I think I saw it at the UA that was showing all the art films during that time.
Yeah, that's the one I went to.
I don't know that it was necessarily included in that whole... That's something we need to talk about, too, is that stretch of time when that UA was basically a repertory cinema on an episode.
The one on Blackstone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I saw Chaplin, for sure. Maybe we were at the same show.
Maybe. That doesn't top me seeing Eraserhead the same day in London as Peter Strickland, though. So, but still, that's pretty cool because we didn't know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can just imagine people. Like, how many people have I sat in movie theaters with that I was unaware of?
Yeah, that's why that little tidbit always blows my mind.
That Chaplin movie is pretty good too.
I don't think I've seen it since then, to be honest with you.
I watched it a lot.
31 years ago.
I mean, maybe it doesn't really work in today's climate because Chaplin made a lot of crappy decisions regarding his love interests being underage and so on and so forth. I don't know if that movie holds up in that regard, but you got to tell the truth. And this guy, he was deeply flawed.
As many of them are.
The one thing that really bugs me about Hollywood movies about flawed, famous people is that they have a tendency to romanticize aspects of their flaw. You and I have talked about Barfly a lot. I think Barfly succeeds in not romanticizing Bukowski's flaws. It's difficult to, I mean, pretty much every other Hollywood movie that I've seen has a tendency to do that when it's a biopic, like The Doors and Chaplin's one. And
don't get me started on that Doors movie.
Oh my goodness. It's like, there's a whole other I think
don't get me
that's
started.
a whole other
Seriously.
ball of wax.
I'm on Sunday trucker fishing, motherfucker, yeah.
How about you? What's on your list?
This kind of ties in with what you're talking about today, and I recognized that when you mentioned what you were going to be talking about when I asked you, and I was like, oh yeah, it's an interesting counterpoint to me because all of those guys that you've mentioned, I never got into as a kid or even as an adult. And anytime anybody would talk about loving the Three Stooges, and this comes up because of the Evil Dead films, and and I think Mike and I even talk about this on that episode of Wake Up Heavy, as those movies in that original trilogy get more Three Stooges-esque,
yeah,
the less I like them.
Yep.
I always point to this as my alternative to those, and it's Our Gang and or The Little Rascals.
Yes, yes.
Oh, and there it was big old hippopotamus. And boy, was he ugly. Looked like the boogeyman.
That is my old-timey go-to for comedy and even some dramedy. You know, if you watch all of them, they get pretty heavy sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the humor that I like. I've never been a slapstick guy, so the Three Stooges have never appealed to me. And not that Chaplin or Keaton or any of those guys were necessarily slapstick, but the Marx Brothers and Three Stooges are kind of the antithesis for me of what the Little Rascals are. So this was just one of those things that when I was growing up, and I don't know how much this extends into your childhood because you're a bit younger than me, it was constant. They were on Channel 26, which was our Fox affiliate back then, when Fox wasn't really a channel. It was a local channel in most markets. This was one of those shows that was on constantly. I can remember watching it on the weekends. I think it was on the Al Radka show, which will come up in a minute here. Part of that Saturday morning chunk of cartoons and stuff, I believe. But I also remember watching them when I was homesick from school. So they were on in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
But I also remember watching them when I would get home from school. This stuff in syndication, which is still a thing, back then it was really a big thing, especially for a TV station like 26, where that's pretty much all they did was get syndicated shows.
Oh yeah, I remember watching Our Gang and Little Rascals on Channel 26, for sure.
These stations buy these packages of films or shorts or cartoons, which is also why, you know, they would have all those Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movies. It's because you buy this big package of stuff to syndicate. Once you buy that, you can just keep showing it, and boy, did they keep showing it. I watched it religiously. I think that was one of the things, probably from a very young age too. I mean, like kindergarten age, if not younger, I would sit and watch Our Gang. It's just funny to me how, as a kid, you don't really think about when it was made or...
No, yeah.
I don't think I had any idea that these, and also with cartoons the same sort of way, like Looney Tunes, that these were things that were made to show before films. These weren't made for TV. I didn't recognize that. I thought these were old TV shows, you know, in the same vein as I Love Lucy or something. Not realizing until decades later, oh, when you went to a movie, you would see cartoon shorts, you would see these shorts, you would see all this other stuff, serials, all this stuff before the movie played.
Yeah.
They kind of do these days. Sometimes they'll show one of those Disney or Pixar shorts before a full-length Disney movie. You don't go to a theater and sit and watch a 20-minute Our Gang short these days. You go and get bombarded with ads and stupid trivia that's also an ad and all this other garbage. So anyway, I mean, it was constant, but it was also, since this was the time before streaming or even VHS or anything, you had to wait until something came back. So the few favorites that I had, I would always hope that they would re-show. So that, again, is another part of the miracles of syndication. And the ones that really stick out for me are Spanky. I think it's just called Spanky. And it was his second appearance in the series. And this started in 1922. So in the silent era, these started Hal Roach Studios, who also did Laurel and Hardy and a bunch of other stuff. And a lot of those comedians are in episodes, I call them episodes, but are in, Our Gang shorts early on. Spanky appeared in 1932, so 10 years after they started, and he was like 3.5 years old.
It's incredible.
Yeah, when he started his career. I didn't realize this until doing my little bit of research, but the one that I love, which I think is just called Spanky, where he goes bug hunting.
For heaven's sake, Spanky, what on earth are you doing now?
Burger!
Was his second appearance on there. Also, from what I read, they took part of his screen test and kind of smashed it in and made episodes out of it. I watched a little bit of it this morning. You can kind of tell where they did a lot of clever inserts and stuff, but I was like, hey man, it works. And dude was just a natural. And so Spanky was my guy. I loved baby Spanky. It's on YouTube, so in various different forms, but if you just look up like Spanky bug hunting or Spanky's first or second appearance, you'll get this little clip of him hunting for a cockroach in his bedroom with one of the Petey's. I'm not sure how many Petey's they had gone through, and that's the dog that has like a target eye.
Yep.
And then taking a bath. It's just the most delightful thing in the world.
Yeah, they're great.
As the story progresses, his brother, I guess, and a bunch of the Our Gang kids are putting on a performance of a play of some sort. Spanky and his brother's dad has stashed a bunch of money in the house, like hidden all this money, and Spanky finds it and ends up throwing it out of the window. And of course, all the kids run to collect it, blah, blah, blah. But it's just funny how when I want to express my desire to buy something, I use that meme of him chucking out the money out of the window with his little tam o' shanter on.
Oh yeah.
All dolled up. I mean, it's just they're, you can buy them, and some of the episodes are on Tubi, but it's hard to tell. It doesn't show you which ones are on there, and I kind of just want to see the ones that I remember liking a lot. But that one, his second appearance, and then one from I think 4 or 5 years later, maybe not that long, but there's one called Mama's Little Pirate where they hunt for buried treasure.
Oh, the best.
It involves this giant. If you watch that episode, I mean, this guy, and of course these are all little kids, but I know they do some stuff with perspective and things as well, and he looks genuinely like 10 feet tall in this. Even when the kids are around him, it was a tall actor, but not 10 feet tall or anything. But I just remember having my mind blown by that, and knowing well enough that it was made well before I was born and all that stuff. That's one of my favorites. And then another one that involves Spanky is when he's babysitting, kind of left in charge of another group, a whole bunch of kids. There's one kid that all he says is remarkable.
Remarkable!
And that's something that has stuck in my brain, almost 50 years.
That is remarkable.
Can you say anything but remarkable? Yeah! I love a Pete say it. Remarkable.
Something that and this comes up pretty regularly, anytime I hear the word Isthmus, I think of a line from Our Gang. I say it comes up pretty often because we watch Jeopardy every day in my house. And there are a lot of clues that involve an isthmus of one sort or another. So anytime I hear the word isthmus, I either mutter it out loud or say in my head this line from Little Rascals. I knew them as Little Rascals when it was syndicated. They were called Little Rascals.
Yes.
But the original shorts were introduced as Our Gang, Hal Roach's Our Gang.
So what's the line?
And this is interesting because it's a mystery memory But oddly enough, I'm not the only person that misremembers it this way. They had a lot of scenes in the school with their teacher, Miss Crabapple, which I'm sure influenced The Simpsons.
Right.
So I thought it was a scene in the schoolhouse, and the teacher asks one of the students, can you use the word isthmus in a sentence? And he says,
It must be my lucky day.
So I looked that up, and I found the clip, and it's not in school. It's one where they're all in an orphanage. It's called Mush and Milk. That's the name of the short. And so they're all at a table, and they're getting fed this gross mush and stuff. Yeah. It's like the headmaster of the orphanage asks the character, that's his name, because he always says, So he says, can you say a sentence using the word isthmus? And he's like, and then he says that line. The other thing that I found when I was looking it up is a post on our gang message board, and the guy was asking, what's the name of the episode in the school where the kids are giving all this misinformation to the questions that are asked? And people are like, no. Those are two separate episodes. There is one where they're saying the incorrect thing in school, and that's this episode. And then the isthmus line is from Mush and Milk. And I was like, oh, see, interesting. Because I pictured it very clearly in my head that it was a kid standing up in class saying that line.
I love that line.
Can you give me a sentence with the word isthmus in it?
It must be my lucky day.
That's the other thing about the show last episode. I sure did go clip crazy, but...
Oh, no, I like that, actually. In listening to it, I was like, every time a clip would pop in, I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad Mark put that in there, because it helps provide perspective, and it's fun.
It is fun. It's fun finding them and putting them in, so...
Yeah. Alfalfa was my favorite from the show, and he's sort of like a lot of people's favorite. I know that. I just got such a kick out of that kid. And funny, my memory of Channel 26 and those episodes coming on, it was always a Saturday. I feel like they were between the cartoons and action theater. And I feel like there would be an episode of Little Rascals or Our Gang, and then also an episode of The Three Stooges. I kind of learned to like both of those through Channel 26 as well. I know you have mixed feelings about Three Stooges, but they were there right next to each other in my memory.
And I think they used them as filler between things, if something didn't quite make it, which is still done today on cable channels, HBO or something, they'll throw in something in between movies to get to 12 o'clock or 1:30 or whatever. So I'm sure they did a lot of that. And I'm sure these were cut to pieces. The original, I think for the first 10 years or so, the shorts were 20 minutes, and then they ended up being 10 minutes or so. I'm guessing that a lot of those 20-minute shorts got cut.
Yeah.
And which makes sense because there was a lot of filler, and it was a case of, you've got all these kids, they're not reading the scripts and going... They did it a different way where they suggested the things to them. And of course, in the silent era, they could just say, now do this, now do that, now do this.
Right.
Once sound came along, it was more like, give them the basics of the story and let them go. So they improvise as little kids.
Yeah.
You mentioned Alfalfa and Spanky and Alfalfa and Darla and Stymie and Buckwheat and Chubby were a lot of my favorites. Froggy was a favorite anytime he showed up. Just listening to him talk.
I don't have no money, and besides, it's too hot in here.
There's a great Stymie scene where he's trying to finagle ham and eggs from a kid. That is one of those things that's burned into my brain, and he was a very talented kid as well, like Spanky, and very natural, and delivers some lines that just absolutely floor me.
I knew ham and eggs couldn't talk. Well, let's say hello to my stomach right now.
And there's a urban legend of the curse of the Our Gang kids, where people think that, they all ended up destitute and drug addicted and suicidal. And there were instances of that. There were through the years, and it ran until about 44. So for 20 something years, they went through a lot of kids, like 40
Yeah.
to 50 different kids. So it wasn't always Spanky. Buckwheat leaves at some point, Stymie leaves at some point. They went through, I don't know how many Pete the Pups. And,
Yeah.
you know, there were some people that went on to big things. Jackie Cooper was one of the original. I think he was before Spanky came around.
Jackie Cooper in Superman, when we watched Superman for the first time, my dad said, "That's the kid from Little Rascals."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God. It was one of the first times I realized, as a youngster, how similar someone can look as a child as they do as an adult.
Yep.
Was through Jackie Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, and I always used to get him confused with the guy that plays Mr. Ullman in The Shining. I always thought that was Jackie Cooper. It's another, he wasn't one of the Our Gang kids. He was an actor that had been around for a long time, and I forget his name right now.
The actor who played Mr. Ullman was Barry Nelson.
Then the other one, of course, is Robert Blake, was one of the later Our Gang kids. I think I actually realized that pretty young, and I don't know if it was because of Beretta being on TV around the same time.
Right.
But I was aware when, and I think he was called Mickey in the Our Gang shorts. It's like, God, that kid looks familiar. We won't get into too much into Robert Blake, but I mean, he went in to have a pretty long career.
Yeah.
And then Butch, who, and this always confused me until recently, because, you know, they would just play these shorts out of order and the kids would age in front of your eyes or go down in age. You know, Spanky's 10 here and he's 3.5 hunting bugs here. And early on, the actor that played Butch played a character named Tommy. And when he was Tommy early on, he was like a spoiled rich kid and always going after the affections of Darla, who Alfalfa liked and would sing for. And then later on, he was morphed into a bully, and he had a sidekick named Woim. So worm, but Woim.
Yeah.
And which always reminds me of the bullies in A Christmas Story. And I've told this story on Wake Up Heavy. When I was in second grade, I always thought of her as a teacher's aide, but she might have been a student teacher who was getting her credential and working in our class. She somehow had an in with Al Radka and his show that was on every Saturday morning. And so our class ended up going there and performing skits on his show. And his cameraman was Tommy Bond, who played Butch, the Little Rascals.
That's so cool.
You mentioned that being able to recognize somebody, and he looked exactly the same. He even wore the old page boy hat.
Oh, that's so
He was
great.
chomping on a cigar the whole time we were there. I think he was pleasant, but having seen him as that character so many times, and just by his face being craggy and cranky looking, just assumed that he was just a mean old guy.
I love that.
Yeah, weird. And if you look him up on Wikipedia, you know, it mentions that him ending up in Fresno and working for that station.
That's so interesting. That's cool. Kind of the opposite of you. The slapstick and the physical comedy of the 20s and 30s has always appealed to me. Now, I haven't returned to episodes of Our Gang or Little Rascals as much as I've returned to Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy and all that stuff. But now I really want to go back and watch those episodes. I'm 95% sure that if I just randomly pick an episode of Our Gang, that it'll bring back memories for me, because those images and scenarios are just burned into my brain.
It's delightful. I mean, just watching that 2-minute section of the Spanky thing that I watched this morning just brought me immense joy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've bookmarked a couple other things on there. I want to watch the Forgotten Babies short, which is where the kid says remarkable constantly.
Remarkable.
Yeah, because I think the whole short's on YouTube, and then some of the other ones as well. They're a joy to watch, and I'm serious. Watching that kid hunt bugs and take a bath is
it's so good.
Immensely pleasing.
Yeah.
That sounded odd, but you know what I mean. He's just a joy. He's a natural, and
it's remarkable.
Amazing. It is remarkable.
Remarkable.
That's a good lead into my next one, unless you have any more to say about...
I won't get into the whole race thing, but I think as a kid, I'll end on this. It was nice to see white and black kids play together and figure out problems together. It's kind of funny in the Wikipedia entry, it says that it was praised for its inclusion. But if you go through the list of episodes, many of them were either edited or pulled completely from syndication because of racial stereotyping, as well as a lot of the instances had to do with portrayals of women in the shorts and all this other stuff. So, I mean, look at it from the time they were made, the 20s and 30s mainly, and a little bit into the 40s, and it wasn't very progressive times.
Yeah, well, this next guy that I'm about to talk about, definitely a problem in that regard. There are a lot of things like that we are challenged with the idea of accepting them because of the time in which they existed, of appreciating what else these things had to offer. Inevitably, similar to what I was saying about romanticizing Charlie Chaplin's exploits, early episodes of Popeye, some episodes of Laurel and Hardy, definitely some early Looney Tunes things, early Disney cartoons. There's a reason why they have been either edited over the years or just simply have disappeared, and I get it.
I have a problem with that because if you're not able to... I mean, let's take Song of the South for an example.
Yeah.
Disappearing something doesn't erase the problem, and it doesn't give people an opportunity to discuss it.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We all know it'll never end up on Disney Plus. I look at TCM, who shows, I want to say Gone with the South.
Gone with the Wind?
Who shows that a lot. And it's a glamorization of a bad time in history. They usually preface it with a discussion on that. Probably most of the Our Gang stuff that I saw as a kid were the edited versions. I know that there was still some sticky stuff in there in regard to Stymie and Buckwheat. I mean, Buckwheat early on was dressed as a pickaninny, and later on, you really couldn't differentiate between them and the other kids based on their looks or their outfits or anything, but there were still jokes made at their expense, and they spoke in a very, very stereotyped manner a lot of the time, not all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. In order to learn how to move forward, if we keep disappearing things from our consciousness or from our culture, from the past, those big mistakes, my fear is that we regress and that we don't learn from. And there's a lot of aspects of our current political climate that makes me feel like we're regressing in some ways.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I wonder, is that partially a result of trying so hard to cover up our previous mistakes as opposed to look at them critically? And I do think that that's a problem. Disney, as you mentioned, Song of the South, has been proponent of that issue, especially with that film. They have tried harder these days on Disney Plus, including little
disclaimers
at the beginning saying, hey, this is not how... We do not support this kind of thing.
Or just to say this includes...
Yes, exactly.
This might
tobacco
include
use.
tobacco use, racial stereotyping.
Right. Exactly.
Etc.
I think that's important. You know, it's like this is a lighter version of that. But, you know, Steven Spielberg, when he revised E.T., he released the original version of E.T. along with the revised version of E.T.
Yeah, and the revised version doesn't really exist anymore. It's gone out of... If you catch it on streaming or anywhere else right now, it is the original version.
And that's the way it should be. I'm not going to say that's the way it should be because every artist should have the opportunity to revise their work. If you do what George Lucas did, which is blasphemous in my opinion, where you just completely remove the original version of your films, that's taking it too far.
So get into your next guy, your problematic guy.
Speaking of this guy, he has barely been touched by this problem that we're discussing right now, which is that people going in and adjusting his previous work. It's almost like he's sort of flown under the radar in that way, and I'm kind of glad for it. I watched many of his films when I was going through my early comedy obsession as a kid, and they never really resonated with me, even though I thought he was fascinating. So I'm talking about W.C. Fields.
Are you drinking?
No, I'm not there. I was thinking.
I was fascinated by him. I would see his ventriloquist dummy at Arthur's Toys. There was something unique about that guy, even though he just looked like a normal guy, aside from his red bulbous nose. He just looked like a guy you could possibly see at the store, aside from his old-timey outfits. I didn't realize the brilliance of his comedy style until later on. In fact, I rediscovered him when I was working at a video store in my late 20s, late 20s, early 30s. I just gobbled him up. It suddenly clicked. And I want to thank Larry David for having the show Curb Your Enthusiasm. The moment I sat down and rewatched The Dentist or It's a Gift or The Golf Specialist, I realized that W.C. Fields was the first Larry David. He was the first comedian to never get a break, always something going wrong, the world working against him, hating everyone, including kids. That reminded me of something else, too. One of the first gifts I got as a very, very young kid, I must have been like 4 or 5 or something. I don't know. I'm just going to say 5 when I received this as a gift from a family member. I don't know who gave it to me. I don't know why it was given to me as a gift. There was this book that came out, and it was all of W.C. Fields' lines where he explains how much he dislikes children. And the name of the book was I Never Met a Kid I Liked.
Was this a subtle hint from your relative that they hated you?
I think...
Here's a book. Why I Hate Kids.
The acerbic sense of humor on my mom's side of the family is probably part of that. And part of the reason why I appreciate W.C. Fields so much. I'm fairly confident it was a relative giving it to me as a joke. And I had no idea, though, because I would read those lines, and once I was reading them, and I would really enjoy that book, but it always kind of flew above my head, like, oh, it makes sense that this guy doesn't get along with kids. That's kind of funny. In rewatching his films, you realize there's a lot of inappropriate humor in regard to his relations with women and his place in society as a white male. Then you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm and you realize that's exactly what Larry David is doing, and how important it is for us to see how shitty people can be. Turning that appropriately into a joke is why W.C. Fields, for me, is completely brilliant. Probably why scholars have only barely touched his work as far as being critical or going back and editing it and for public consumption and stuff like that. The Dentist is a wildly inappropriate short.
Have you ever had this tooth pulled before?
No.
And it had been edited. That's the one that I know of that had gone through editing. I have a version of it. The Criterion Collection put out the original version of it. It's, it's inappropriate, but it's nothing like you haven't seen by today's standards. Mm-hmm. But back then, it must have been like, oh my goodness, he's pulling this woman's tooth out and she's straddling him and has her foot in his pocket. And yeah, I mean, it's just like no innuendo is coming from him. Huh. He's just fed up. He's just trying to get this job done. He hates her. And yet it's sort of a sexualized interaction.
Well, it sounds brilliant.
When I think about you and I over the years and our sort of banter, I can see we've sort of been, you and I over the years have sort of been Statler and Waldorf a little bit.
I didn't like it. What'd the avocado think? It's the pits.
When looking at the world, like you're looking at the world critically, but also humorously. And I feel like you and I have always understood each other. That acerbic sense of humor makes sense for us and probably why we are such good friends to this day. Because nothing should go without some sort of critique, in my opinion.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention the inappropriate sexualized interaction. That's how I thought you were going with that.
No,
I was like, I'm not sure
No, I'm talking about acerbic sense of humor. That's hilarious. No.
That doesn't sound right.
W.C. Fields is tapping into that Statler and Waldorf for me as a kid. I always appreciated Statler and Waldorf, though couldn't really articulate why. The fact that a family member gave me I Never Met a Kid I Liked as a gift, it just goes to show that nothing should go without critique. Nothing should be protected from humor. So W.C. Fields, in my late 20s, early 30s, I just dove deep into him. I watched everything. I'm fortunate. I worked at a video store that had everything. I was able to just sort of ingest it all. There are a few films that are better than others. Some that you could tell he's sort of getting tired at the end of his life. And maybe his alcoholism was getting the better of him. But, I mean, he was making movies for decades. So every era has gems. There's always something brilliant there. And it's just a matter of time before people rediscover him. Now that I've mentioned it, it's going to enter the zeitgeist. There should be a resurgence of interest and understanding like what he was making commentary on and how important that is in retrospect.
Yes, because our show has that much.
I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with our listenership. It's just really, it's like entering it into the air. Is like that's basically it. We're just saying these words, and then suddenly I know that by the end of this month, something weird will happen. Like the company that made those ventriloquist dolls will start re-releasing retro-style ventriloquist dolls based on old-timey movie stars. Something like that's going to happen.
Or maybe there'll be a new Mego W.C. Fields. The company that does, and they're not Mego, but Figures Toy Company, they do the Three Stooges from different films in different outfits. They have quite a few series of Three Stooges figures.
I've seen those. And if Mego came out with, or any company that could release these, came out with Mego style, W.C. Fields, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, Our Gang, like any of those, I'd be a sucker for it.
Our Gang were Migos back in the day. I don't think they've reissued. I don't think anybody's reissued them in the modern era, but there were Our Gang Migos.
They deserve a reissue. I want to stand Alfalfa next to W.C. Fields, next to Officer Big Mac, and just take a picture of them in the yard, and that would make my millennium.
In regard to Alfalfa as being one of those people, a lot of them continued on in movies, maybe not past like the 50s, but I always get a little happy surprise when we watch It's a Wonderful Life, and Carl Switzer is in there.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
As an older teenager.
Yep.
And gets some lines, and at that dance when the pool opens, he's there, and I don't remember when I realized that, but at some point I was like, man, that kid sure looks like Alfalfa all grown up.
Did you ever watch the remake, the Little Rascals, like
no,
in the 90s?
I had zero interest in that film when it came out.
When I was working at the movie theater, that film had just hit. So when I'd go on my break, I'd sit in there sometimes and watch a couple minutes. No, it's not good.
There is no way the kids in that movie could have the natural charm of the originals, so it held no interest.
I'm sure there's people who will argue with us on this, but I will say from the bits and pieces I have seen, just not a great movie.
That ain't it.
No.
Yeah, I just watched a movie, probably on TCM, and I think it was before he was a bigger star and was the lead in movies. But I was like, hey, who is that guy? And I was like, oh, it's W.C. Fields. So I have no idea what movie it was. It was an early role, and he was sort of just a side player. Yeah, he's one of the few of those old group of comedians that I actually like because of that acerbic humor.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily slapstick. And
it's 100% cerebral. It is all about the dialogue. There are some slapstick moments.
Right.
Of course, because it was... that's kind of how he got his start in vaudeville. Chaplin got his start in vaudeville too. He got his start in vaudeville, W.C. Fields juggling, essentially. And he was a really brilliant juggler. And so the slapstick is there. But once the silent film era was over and sound had hit the mainstream, he was all about that dialogue and the timing and the responses, the shitty things he would say under his breath. That was so funny. It's no wonder I didn't get it as a kid. As a young adult, I was like, whoa, this is like everything I want to see right now. He's great. And to this day, he's... you know what? And I need to say this too. In rewatching the Marx Brothers later on in life as well, I realized that was happening with Groucho. that Groucho was totally doing the W.C. Fields thing too. Groucho had a lot more to say, and so the writing there is brilliant too. But if you're looking for cerebral, acerbic humor, not intellectual by any standards, but smart, Groucho and W.C. Fields is the master of that, and Groucho's great too. And I thought about the Marx Brothers. They deserve a whole other episode, and it's just like Buster Keaton does, because the Marx Brothers are brilliant too.
Keep that on your list.
It's there.
You're drunk.
Yeah, you're crazy.
What?
And I'll be sober tomorrow, and you'll be crazy for the rest of your life.
What?
This is a little bit of an outlier for this episode, but he kind of connects with W.C. Fields in sardonic humor in a way. And this is one of those oddball things that I remembered as probably on our first episode. One of the things I jotted down while we were talking. Oh yeah, remember that. You got to remember that. That was a big deal as a kid. And that is Garfield.
Oh yeah.
The not so lovable orange cat. And let me give a little bit of history, because this is all new to me. I didn't really know much about his history. Just kind of exploded onto the scene when I was younger. So it was started in 1978, but goes back a couple years before that, because he appeared in a comic called John, who, is his human caretaker, I guess, for lack of a better term. Created by Jim Davis in 1976. It ran in local papers wherever he was from, somewhere in the Midwest, I think. Like a lot of those, and I was trying to think of another example of like a breakthrough character where that wasn't the original intent, and then you get feedback, we really like that cat. And so that becomes the lead. So he went into syndication in 78, but I don't think the Fresno Bee got him that early. That seems to me, in my personal history with comics or with this obsession, that seems a little early to me. That would have been 9. And I feel like this happened at an age where I recognized that I was too old to be into him this much. So I feel like I was at least in junior high. It could have been younger because of the books, and we'll get to the books in a minute. But as many kids did, I read the comics, the funny pages, as they're always called in movies and TV, pretty religiously as a kid. I don't think I've looked at the comic section of a newspaper in 25 years.
Well, it's certainly not the same now.
Once Calvin and Hobbes and Far Side ended, I had no interest anymore.
Oh, we got to do a whole episode on Far Side.
Those are 2 that are on my list as well.
Yeah.
Whenever he first showed up, or whenever I first discovered him in the Fresno Bee, I was immediately hooked. It was mainly about his character design. And then I slowly got into the humor of the strips, which was very sarcastic.
Yes.
Garfield is a sarcastic, sardonic character, a selfish character, which can be funny and belittling to pretty much everyone around him. Hates everybody.
Yes.
Kind of like W.C. Fields.
That's right. That's perfect.
I remember trying to trace him, trying to draw him on my own.
Yep.
So a lot of it was the character design. In 1980, and again, I don't think I was in on this from the beginning, they started releasing Garfield books. The interesting thing about those, and I didn't realize this until doing my research for this, because it seems like that's how all comic strip books are done these days, but they were the first to use a landscape format as opposed to a portrait style format. Longer vertically than horizontally. That is due to Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield, saying, hey, why don't we do them this way? I would say I think I still have them. I didn't go digging in the rafters. I looked up there and just realized all of the Christmas ornament boxes and all that stuff were in the way of like my personal stuff, and I had no interest. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just for the episode, I thought about it for half a second, saw what I was looking at, getting into, and said, fuck it, I'm not
I get it.
trying to, just so I could say like exactly how many of the books I had, but I had a bunch of them. At least 7 or so, could have been more, because they released them twice a year. So there would be a release. The first one was released in September of 80, and then every year after that, it was like March, September, or February, August. So there were 2 every single year after that first one, and I bought a bunch of them.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I think it's the sarcastic humor that pulled me in and his design, but it's one of those things that at a certain point just absolutely fell away completely. I was done, not interested. Yeah. It probably, I mean, I read the comic pages for a good while, and I'm sure he's still in. It was at some point the most syndicated comic in all of history.
Yeah.
I doubt that's still the case, but at his apex, at his zenith, it was in more papers than any other comic, which is surprising because, you know, the Peanuts were still around.
Right. I had a similar experience with it. I got real deep into it. I learned how to draw them. I basically learned how to draw cartoon characters from him and Looney Tunes. And I bought a lot of those books too. And then, similar to you, it just done. Like one day, I don't know what it was, but one day it was just like, okay, I'm not interested anymore. But there was a good period of time there in the mid to late 80s. And I guess for me, it was late 80s, where I was just like deep into it and loved Garfield. And then I'll say this real quick, but he came back. He came back into my life just about 5 years ago when I discovered Garfield without Garfield.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
I'll just say, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It is absolutely hilarious. It does remarkable things. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sure you have a lot to say about it.
We'll come back to that in a minute here.
Yeah.
And talk more about it. So it was Garfield and his owner, or his human compatriot John, and then Odie, the dog who got terrorized by Garfield. And Odie was the pet of John's roommate Lyman, who disappeared at some point, like they do with things. You know, like the Cunningham's original older son disappears from the show.
Mark is referring to the show Happy Days.
Same thing happens with comics and other media. And the only other character that I really got into was Nermal, who was sort of Garfield's foil. If I remember correctly, was kind of dumb and like innocent, and Garfield just couldn't stand him. But he was, incredibly cute. I don't know which books I had. I know I had a bunch, but here are the first 10 titles, and you can kind of get the idea of what they were going for here. So the first one was Garfield at Large, then Garfield Gains Weight, Garfield Bigger Than Life, Garfield Weighs In, Garfield Takes the Cake, Garfield Eats His Heart Out, Garfield Sits Around the House, Garfield Tips the Scales, Garfield Loses His Feet, and Garfield Makes It Big. And there are like 40 of these now, and then they also get anthologized in large volumes where you get the first 3 together. And the only other things that I remember having beside the books when I was younger was a plush, and they made different sizes of this plush, but they were all basically the same design. I'm not sure which size I had. I think I had the 7-inch or maybe the one above that, but there were like 7, 8, 10, 12-inch plushes. So I had that, and that was styled after his earlier form where he still walked around on all 4s, because at some point he goes bipedal, as does Odie, which I'm not really that big a fan of. I don't think I really recognized that as a kid when it happened, but having those early books and seeing his evolution of design, where he's really big at the beginning and more crudely drawn, like a lot of these things, and we've talked about it with the mascots and other stuff, where everything gets rounded and cute and sort of loses some detail, because he used to have squinty eyes and sort of heavier jowls, and
I remember this,
almost Jabba the Hutt-esque in a way, and then just gets streamlined and round and adorable or whatever. So I had a plush, and then I had a pencil topper, and I think I still have the pencil topper somewhere in this house,
so cool.
and I couldn't find it in the spot that I last remember him being in. So I have a feeling I passed him on to Cleo at some point.
Hmm.
And God knows where that is now, because if you were to take a peek into her room, they would just be absolutely horrified, because it's a disaster area.
That's how it goes. About a month ago, I was at Target, and guess what was on the shelf in the NECA section but a Garfield with suction cup hands and feet. That was so huge for us in the late 80s. Almost every other car on the freeway had that Garfield attached to the window.
I think that's when I was like, I'm done, man. I can't. Yeah. It's just like ubiquitous now on every fucking car. I can't deal with it anymore. He's gotten too popular. I can't. I was an original. I liked him back.
I could see you doing that.
Yeah, and then my interest was piqued in him again, as you mentioned, with the Garfield minus Garfield strip, which so I came to because of the internet and followed that account on Facebook.
Yep.
However many years ago it popped up. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's this guy, and I have no idea who it is.
Garfield minus Garfield was created by Dan Walsh.
Took the Garfield strips and removed Garfield, and so it's mainly just Jim.
Yeah.
Mark meant John, Garfield's human companion. Jim is Garfield's creator.
It becomes like an existential nightmare.
It's so good.
If you read like a bunch of them in a row, the speech bubbles or thought bubbles are still there, but it's basically Jim interacting with either nobody or some more of the minor characters. His thoughts and or speech still kind of makes sense in a horrifically bleak way. It's brilliant. And then they released a book, and I think the credit still applies to Jim Davis.
Yes.
As far as he's the author of the book. Whoever this guy is just came up with an absolutely brilliant.
I'm laughing right now. The laughter is genuine. I can't recall an exact strip from the Garfield without Garfield book, but I have the book. I'm laughing only because that's exactly was my reaction to the first time I saw it. It was out loud laughter, and every time I revisit the book, which I have, by the way, somewhere, and it came out in the exact same shape, 4x6 or 3x5 or whatever.
Probably more 4x6.
I'm laughing just at the thought of it.
Yeah.
I've never encountered a more brilliant way to appropriate something and turn it into a surprisingly hilarious version of itself. It is brilliant.
It is. It's incredibly, again, I'm losing the word that I want. Just by doing that one thing, it turns it into a whole other thing that you wouldn't think would work as well as it does. And it just works wonderfully because of the original interaction of those two. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, but it works great.
I have a word for it, and it's sad. And part of what makes it so funny is how sad it really is John just talking to himself. It's sad. And that's part of what makes it so funny. It's just so weird and sad.
Which he is anyway with Garfield in the strip. And I think it hits that how bleak John's life is. It puts the pin on that.
100%. Oh, it's so good. I'm going to get that book out after our episode today and read it.
The only other thing I wanted to mention about Garfield is that I remember the specials, and I don't know if there was ever an actual series. I remember watching the specials whenever they came out and not really liking how he was voiced.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's actually that droll kind of delivery, but I think I imagined him differently in my head. And then the movies with Bill Murray, I've never even watched. And again, I think it's a matter of, I've never seen them, but I've seen the house they bought, and it's beautiful thing with him as well. Like, he probably made a shit ton of money for doing the voice of Garfield in those movies, and they paid for rounds of golf.
I did watch about the first 10 minutes of the first Garfield movie. I had the similar reaction to the specials too, which is it didn't quite work in that way. There's a unique quality to the comic strips, even up until the very end of those, that the movies and the specials didn't have. The format works.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I wanted to like the Garfield movie because Bill Murray, it's like I pretty much like almost everything he's done. Saying that I could only get about 10 minutes in is saying a lot.
Yep, and I haven't even attempted. I think I've caught bits and pieces on cable, but no interest in sitting down for an hour and a half.
I'm glad you brought up Garfield because it's something that I hadn't thought about a lot for a long time until I discovered Garfield Without Garfield, and then I thought about it a lot. Then I stopped thinking about it. So it's good to hear that somebody else went through that journey too. Garfield was certainly a phenomenon.
Yeah, massive. Very popular, and I know the books probably made that dude a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Good on him.
We watched an episode of Eek the Cat. Do you remember Eek the Cat from the 90s, the early 90s? It is a very short-lived... Ariella remembered it, my wife. So we watched an episode last night with the girls, and it kind of holds up a little bit. It's sort of in this... It's like early 90s crazy, weird cartoon, sort of like Tiny Toons or whatever, the Beetlejuice cartoon. In that style, surreal humor. Eek the Cat wouldn't have existed without Garfield. I feel like Heathcliff wouldn't have existed without Garfield. Some people might argue with me on that one, maybe. Vice versa.
I'm pretty sure Heathcliff predates Garfield.
Oh, we'll find out.
Yeah, well, I'll put that in as a correction. Who came first, Heathcliff or Garfield? We will answer that question right now.
Heathcliff was created before Garfield.
But Garfield made cats funny.
Hey, it's why we got our first cat, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I got so in. We were dog people before, my parents. I can't really say my sister or I had much to say about it, but I believe that me getting so into Garfield was the impetus for us getting our first cat, and we have been cat people ever since.
Cats are great.
And cats are sarcastic little assholes, so...
They really are. It makes sense.
Rings true.
Absolutely. And without them, we are just in an existential crisis.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
we saw in Garfield Without Garfield.
Talking to ourselves about our bleak existence.
Exactly. Oh, gosh. I got to reread that.
Okay, Ronnie, so let's pretend that this is a surprise for people. What is your local place for this episode?
Oh, man. Without consulting with you, I chose this place that was pretty iconic for me as a kid here in town in Fresno called Pizza and Pipes. I did a little research and found out that it was a solely California thing.
Oh, were there others?
Yeah, there were others. There was one in Santa Clara and Sacramento, a few other places. The guy who started it, his name's Bill Brewer. He started it in 1962. There were franchises, but I don't believe it left California. I think there were only like 6 locations, 5 or 6 locations. Right before this episode started, I said, so what did you pick? My subconscious is like, what'd you pick as a local restaurant? Because I had already picked a restaurant, even though it doesn't have to be a local restaurant. And you laughed because you're like, what'd you say? How do you know it was a restaurant or something like, why would you say restaurant?
Yeah.
You said restaurant. And then what did you say to me?
I said it was Pizza and Pipes.
I was like, holy shit, that is so weird.
And I told you that I picked that. It hadn't been on my list until recently because I don't usually drive down Shields. But we did a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned the Clovis Antique Mall or stores in reference to what we talked about last time. To get out to Clovis from where I live, you take one of the freeways here through town. You go down Shields to get there, and Shields and First is where the Pizza in Pipes was. And it was in a real funky... I always thought of it in my head as a kid as a castle.
Yeah.
It was a 2-story turreted building. Wasn't it like shingles all around?
Yes. Essentially, it was a box. You get inside and there's a box with 2 different levels. But on the outside, they had this whole facade.
Yeah.
Almost like a turret thing with shingles. And it was pretty epic if you're a kid looking at it.
Yes.
Across the street was Gemco, which was like a Target kind of store. And now that store is a Target.
Mm-hmm.
That same building where Pizza and Pipes is located is still there. And that's what you were saying when you were driving down Shields and you looked over to your left and saw it. It's now a Michoacan paletas shop, and I love those. So haven't been to that location yet. For many years, it was closed up after Pizza and Pipes disappeared.
But this was one of those places where you would have your birthday party.
Yep.
Really, the only reason, I'm sure people went there for other reasons. The only times I ever remember going was for somebody's party. I may have had one there myself. I kind of don't think so. I almost always did parties at home or went to a movie. But I know I went to tons of birthday parties there.
Yeah.
And they had pizza, which I don't recall being all that good.
I don't remember the pizza quality at all. It was more about the atmosphere for me.
It was filled with arcade games, and there was a pipe organ.
Gigantic pipe organ.
That's where you get pizza and pipes, and the pipes were pipe organ pipes, and somebody would sit there probably wondering to himself the whole time, how did I get into this mess?
Exactly. It was always just a normal dude, too. Like, I don't believe there was a costume attached. It was just a person that they hired to come and sit down and play. It almost looked like a customer could be playing it. The few times that I had been in there toward the end, no one was playing it. When I was very young, people would be playing the organ. And then when I was just a little bit older, getting closer to when it would close up, the organ just be sitting there.
Probably cost too much to keep it up.
Probably. And I did read in my research, that some of the locations simply replaced the keyboard with like a Yamaha electric keyboard. Rather than maintaining the pipe organ itself, they just replaced it with a synthesizer of some sort.
Now, did they show, I just had this thought, and I don't know if I'm making this up, but did they show like silent movies?
Okay, so I know exactly where you're going with this. I had to dig into my brain. There was a Pizza Hut on Blackstone near Fresno City College. They would play Our Gang, Little Rascals, Three Stooges. I don't recall seeing short, old-timey films at Pizza and Pipes, but I do recall them showing at that particular Pizza Hut.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have that memory, though, because I never went to a Pizza Hut as a kid. So
maybe I'm actually combining memories.
I couldn't say, but I know my misremembering wouldn't be because of that, because I've never been to a Pizza Hut.
You're not missing out on much.
This is a future local place, but we went to a particular pizza place.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time we wanted pizza when I was a kid. That's on my list. We're not going to mention it now.
We won't, because I have a lot to say about that, too. I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same place. Today, I was going to talk about Chuck E. Cheese, but then I thought that's sort of like McDonald's.
Yeah, that's not local.
That's a whole other deal. It's not local. Also, I was obsessed with that as far as animatronics. Like, animatronics was a huge thing for me.
That's a topic for another episode.
Exactly. Now, here, help me with this. We're doing this right now. You didn't know I was going to bring this up. I have this weird memory, and it could have been just a party thing, like somebody had their birthday party at Pizza and Pipes, but I have a weird memory of a costumed hippopotamus, like a person in a hippopotamus costume. I dug through all the images online of Pizza and Pipes. There are no characters attached to it, but I have a very strong memory of a purplish hippopotamus character costume. And if you don't remember that, then it must have been just sort of like someone that they hired for someone's birthday party that just happened to be there.
Well, not necessarily, because I don't remember a whole bunch about it other than it having a pipe organ, going to birthdays there, and the only other thing that it really had going for it were arcade games.
Yeah.
I believe on the second level.
Yep.
And I was never a big arcade game player, never a big video game player, because I sucked at them and they cost money to play, and it felt like a waste of money to me.
It is.
So I usually just watched people play.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only really other draw, because like I said, I don't think the pizza was all that great. Anywho, yeah, pizza and pipes. I had no idea. I didn't do any research because I was just going off of the birthday party aspect of it, it being one of those. And there is another one of those places that was a franchise, but I sort of consider local, that we'll probably get to at some point, that was in Fig Garden Village. That was the other birthday place that people went to a lot. I'll mention it after the episode, but it's
wondering
on my list.
about that one.
I guess we didn't have very many options as kids in Fresno for birthday locales. I can say right now, though, I've never been to a Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, man.
So
you miss the era. I mean, if you go to Chuck E. Cheese now, our youngest, we had a birthday party there for her years ago, and it's not the same. Chuck E. Cheese has changed substantially. When I was a kid, it was like a dark, interesting, and strange place with rooms that had animatronics in it. There was no video element aside from the video games in the arcade. Now it's all sort of digital screen.
Don't give away too much.
Oh, yeah. You're getting me off on off on a tangent here. But we'll go back to pizza and pipes just to give people an idea of the size of the organ.
That's what she said.
It was a Wurlitzer theater organ. So if you've ever seen one of those 2-story tall theater organs, that's exactly what it was. And it was epic as a kid going in there and looking up at this thing. Mm-hmm. The person playing was on a tall pedestal, probably about 6 feet above the ground. Not pedestal, but stage.
Yeah.
The pipes would extend all the way to the ceiling. And when that guy would be up there playing it, I say guy because I only saw dudes playing it. When that person would go up there and play, it would be boomingly loud. Like the decorations were kind of like a restaurant. I don't know how else you'd say it. Like it reminded me a little bit of like this old spaghetti factory.
Yeah, there were old-timey pictures on the wall.
Old-timey pictures on the wall. And
could have been local, could have been Pop Laval stuff. I don't know.
Could have been. And then it was that giant organ. It was a very relaxed but novelty experience.
Harkening back, it started in 1962, but they were definitely harkening back to an earlier era. I mean, just the thought of a pipe organ, which the only real experience for me was in a church.
Yeah.
Because some churches had big pipe organs.
Yep.
This was really the only other place to experience that.
Yep, for sure.
Didn't have any silent theaters in town still with pipe organ. And some places do, some places have theaters like that have existed for decades and they still have their pipe organs, but not Fresno.
I have very fond memories of pizza and pipes. To this day, I'll never know about that hippopotamus, whether it was just a dream or if I actually saw somebody in a costume. It's part of my memory. I think it's strange that we came up with the same thing. That's just hilarious.
Where can people find you outside of Cambridge and Washawn?
Well, it's kind of an exciting time for my YouTube channel. I just reached the level of monetization on my Skelevator YouTube channel,
nice.
Which has allowed me to expand some of the things there. I created a little shop over there for Skelevator and Toy Frenzy stuff, and maybe you and I can talk about incorporating some Cambridge and Washawn things there. But it just happened this week, so I'm excited. If it pays for a sandwich here and there, I'll be stoked. And, Instagram is another place where you can find me under the moniker Skelevator. If you're interested in my art and my writing, you can find me on Instagram under Ronald Zarigian _projects. That's it for me. How about you? Where can people find you?
People can find me at my other show, Wake Up Heavy, Recollections of Horror. On social media, you can find me at Wake Up Heavy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Linktree.com/wakeupheavy.
Last thing I didn't mention that I should mention, folks are Instagram enthusiasts. You can find Cambridge and Washawn on Instagram. Go become our friend over there.
Alrighty, until next time, have a great month and a nice summer, and hopefully where you live it doesn't get too hot and there aren't any wildfires.
Yeah.
We'll see you then. Next time it'll probably be blazing hot here and we won't have our windows open.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Baka!
Cambridge and Rashawn is a Weirding Way Media podcast.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.